Video 203. We just got done doing 45 tickers. This is another 44 here. We'll start with FDX. These are alphabetically ordered as well. So far, so good. It is forecastable. It's a wide range. It's a good company. I don't trade it because they seem to have headlines often. Labor this, walkout that, and when they reported earnings this last time, I believe they split the company in two, or they plan on it. You see what I mean? Meanwhile, it's behaving properly. We have support through 264. If you lose that, you're going to go down to 254 or 258. I think you're basically stuck in that blue box for a bit. That's the earnings box. Or actually the earnings pricing. So if they drop to the low end, that's where the big money was ready to pounce, and they were ready to sell it at 288 on their last earnings. So I would imagine it's going to be in that range for a minute. I wouldn't touch it just because from an investment perspective, it's going to split into companies. I don't want to deal with that. I don't know how they're going to do the options or any of that. Trading wise, resistance at 284 or higher, support at 266. Lose either of those, you're going to carry 20 bucks in that direction. F5 networks, haven't traded this in a long time. Technically, 246 needs to hold. If you lose it, you go to 232-ish. So this support loss will get you to this zone, and you have some support here. Taking out 261 might get you to 72, but that doesn't look easy. I think it's easier to get down to better base. Earnings in about 20 days or so. FXI, everything said about BABA applies here. Good support, but you better not lose it. So if you do lose 2940, I think you go to 2760. This is the large cap China ETF. 3150 or higher is difficult. If it gets to 33, short it. Meanwhile, this is not pretty. I would not be long here. I think it's easier to get to 28 than 33. Gap, like as in the Gap stores. Oh my God, they're still in business. Yeah, I am not a fan of any apparel company, by the way, especially one that has retail stores. Wow, look at that candle. Yeah, okay. So support below 22, 2250, and hideous resistance into 27. I don't think it should be able to ever break through 27 again with this P&L. But if you do, you might get to 29 or 2950. I think it has good support spread below 2250. So the range is getting tighter, which indicates that a move is coming, but I just can't imagine how that's going to happen. Let me zoom out and see what's going on. Wow, look at this. I mean, why would I ever invest in this stock? It clearly doesn't follow the fundamentals because the fundamentals are not that wild. Look at this ride. Oh my God. Yeah, not for me. Has support, has resistance. There's no decision to be made. If I'm in it, I'm in it. If I'm looking to get in it, yeah, I do have support. I can try it out. GCT, Giga Cloud. 2250 is now a problem with 50 cent range there. They lost a neckline they needed to hold. And they do have support, but they better hold it. So if they lose 16, they're probably going to 12. It looks like they're selling rallies. That's not my opinion. That's what's going on. If you lose this base, you're going to go down way more than 12. I think you can retest 11 or 10. Not my forecast, because I said if you lose the base, you're at risk. So support below, yes. Needs to hold, yes. Resistance above, yes. Easy to break, I don't think so. GEV, is this GE, V for what? For electricity, volts. So this is the power element of GE, the split. Yeah. Wow, looking to break out. So if you're long, stay in it. You're getting a breakout. If you do, you get to 410. Don't short it. And if it does dip to 310, it's a base that they've counted on. So it's looking like it wants to break out. GM, it is not looking like it wants to break out. Car companies, I've heard the term Carmageddon is coming. I don't think car companies are doing very well, but I don't subscribe to that rhetoric. Look at their P&L. It's okay. It's not awesome. It's okay. And so 50 to 47, 45 is a base. And 55 is a breakout, but it's a resistance. I think if it gets to 58, I'm out of my long. If I got long here as a trade, I would not want to invest in car companies. Carmageddon, how so, they say? Well, you can't sell $80,000 cars without cheap loans, and we don't have cheap loans. So the lending, the consumer is tapped out. That's how. Car prices are falling. Nobody's reporting on it, but go shop. There are deals. There are advertisements for cheap deals now, low leases. I know you wouldn't, but a lot of people would. 49.50 must hold. Lose that, you go to 45. If I own shares in GM, I would be selling covered calls. GPN, Global Payments. So this is okay, fintech. Very violent stock. Wide range. Take out 120, you go to 132, 134. Meanwhile, you do have some support that needs to hold at 109. If you don't, you come down to the low 100s, which will be the entry point. So you can sell puts to own shares down there. I don't know the company, but it looks like it has a decent P&L. It's in a sector that is okay. And you have a bunch of solid support and an opportunity breakout. So I can understand somebody being long from a trading perspective as well as an investment. So it's not a bad idea. Sell puts to own shares and buy a call with that. I've never traded this. I'll check out to see if it's liquid. Grab, not for me up here. It can get cheaper. I would be interested closer to 3.9 or 4 or 4.1 or 4.2. Good support down there, 3.9 or lower. This spike is based on something that came out probably. Is this like a car company like Uber, I'm going to say? Yeah, it's one of those charts that not very pretty. Like, that's a consistent P&L. What's with this? My God. Okay. I guess it's cheap enough to where somebody can just buy shares and leave room to double the shares. I wouldn't use options for this one. I would just buy shares. Leave room to double. Thank you, Faye. HIMS, excellent business, getting more excellent by the minute. My only concern is regulation. They're loosey-goosey with their process. And like everything they sell, most everything is prescription. They're loosey-goosey with that. I bet you can get stuff from them without even talking to a doctor. So, might as well be buying it from you know where. Anyway, good P&L, solid. It has competition from Amazon, but that's been going on for months. And the stock has already taken that shock and bounced from it almost immediately. This path is still possible. So they're buying dips, just buy the dip. You can sell puts to own shares on bad days. It is on my shopping list, so I have an alert down here. You can set your alerts anywhere. Just make it wherever you deem it a bargain. If you twist my arm, I would sell a put to own shares versus buying the shares. Honeywell, global company, recession-proof, maybe, maybe not. And global recession, maybe, maybe not. I can tell you with complete confidence, This here is not an obvious point of entry for an investor, right? It's doing great. It's a great P&L. So just buy the next dip. Where is the fire to get long here? If you're looking to get long here, I'm going to push back and say, why didn't you do it at 200? Why did you wait for a 15%? Oh, I feel better about it now. Okay, so maybe you don't go by your feelings. Just next time you're uncomfortable, pull the trigger. If you're comfortable here, don't pull the trigger. That's a good litmus test. If it's uncomfortable, you're probably getting a better deal. Hood, I wouldn't touch it up here. I did touch it in the past. Up here, I wouldn't touch it. And if you forced me, I wouldn't touch it either. No, I wouldn't short it. But if I'm long, I'm out. Just to give you perspective, I'm out since the low 20s. And this is a 2020 stock. And basically, you know what I mean with that comment. P&L is okay. Erratic, but getting more stable now. It's less erratic than before. Not an obvious entry point. If you're an investor in it for the long term, where's the fire to add to your risk up here? IBKR, we talked about it live today. It does not inspire a position to go long here. Maybe closer to 152, 153. Ideally, I want it closer to 132 or lower. So decent P&L. Not sure why it spiked from here to here with the P&L this boring. Somebody must have upgraded it. Yeah, I feel like a sucker buying it up here. That would not be for me. If you're asking permission to go long, do it with your own money. You're not getting a loan from me. In fact, I would lend somebody money to sell a call in it. Not an obvious point of entry. There are better deals around 156, even better yet around 136 or lower. Intel, this is a better deal than AMD. Well, this is a speculative bet for the future. I would buy it as if I'm buying Carvana. Broken company, but great potential to come back. So they're selling rallies and making lower lows. It might give you an entry point at 16 or 17, maybe, but it's close enough for a shot from here. So if it was me for the long term, I would allocate some money to it and forget about it. So two ways I can do this. Sell puts aggressively every week until I get put to shares. Or buy half my position in shares and forget about it and sell covered calls on it. And if it spikes, I'm in. If it doesn't and gets collapsed, I would double and forget. All-time low is 1850. I doubt it. It IPO'd at 1850. All-time low is in the single digits. Okay, recent low. Yeah. Well, look, it's been minus before. Apparently, it's not an all-time low. That is irrelevant. The recent low. You're saying that there's support. That's what I started by saying. You lose this support, you go down to $8. So anyway, what I said is what I would do. Take half of a position, forget about it. How you take half the position can be many different ways. Reach out, we can come up with a solution. I just told you a couple. Into it, you can have support through 570 and backup support through 520. And you have the exact opposite going on at 660. So rallies into 660, I think, will be met by heavy sellers. I would not expect this to break out from 660. This P&L is junk compared to what's going on with the chart. Are you kidding me? What the hell is this? Why is the third quarter? Is this a tax thing? Like, is this every year like this, where third quarter spikes? Okay, I take the junk back. It must be a tax thing. So erratic revenue seasonality, but the sellers are hard set at selling 770 plus. That one spike here, is this the election? Yes. So that was overdone. I would venture to guess that it will not break out of 680 this year. But if it does, it goes to 30. But I would bet on it not. So I would sell a credit call spread to put that bet into play. In fact, I would probably make it an iron condor if I did that, because there's definite support as well and a good business to back it up. So iron condor maybe like 2 months out to create income out of it. Who is this? Invitation Homes. Is this a home builder? No way. No touchy. Anything real estate? Nope. Nope. Not for me. And good support though, and backup support. So if I'm long, I'm not scared. If I wanted to own the stock and I know the company, this is not a bad place to own the stock, as long as I can accept a drop towards 28. And rallies into 35 will be heavily sold. So you're stuck, but it's a good P&L. Very erratic stock price. Doesn't match the P&L. I hear horror stories from the real estate market, so do your homework there. IWM, I will cover that in a whole chart all by itself. Video tonight and tomorrow morning. JP Morgan, manipulation. Let me show you. There was a ghost print to 244 not too long ago, and yesterday or Friday they spent quite a few days trying to get to it and failed, and finally on Friday they had a burst out of nowhere and they got it. I'm waiting for the pop to short it. People have been, big companies have been talking about, oh, it's got so much potential, and then this happened immediately after they mentioned it, and this is their knee-jerk reaction. I dare them to bring it up there. I will short it again via credit call spread. We've done this so many times, and it's made us money. So good company, the best, quote, bank that they say on Wall Street. And if it does break out of 254, it probably goes to 268 or more. I don't have any positions in it now, but I will short the rallies as they present themselves. They are buying dips, so I'm just taking advantage of these dips and making money on the pops. Awesome trend. Very good, solid P&L. Look at this P&L. You know why this P&L is so solid? Because the Federal Reserve is making the money hand over fist, the banks. The Federal Reserve is not helping us. It's helping us by sheltering us from a financial collapse by doing some shenanigans. That's my opinion. It's not fact. But my take is that they're moving the rates in order to help the banks so that our economy doesn't collapse, as opposed to helping us spend more. We're already spending at record rates. We don't need rate cuts. We're spending at record rates. The rate cuts are there to stop us from defaulting on the debt we've already amassed. That's my thesis. You can have your own. Coca-Cola. We shorted it up there, made a bundle. Down here, don't short it. It has a solid support through 59 or 58. Can it fall below? Yes, it can go to 56, 55, 54, 53. But it will be a buying opportunity. So here's the take. If I own shares, I'm not doing anything. If I'm looking to own shares, I would only take half of a position because rallies are being sold. This way, you'll be in the stock and you will have room to double your position to make your entry price better. And I wouldn't double at 55. I would double lower if you need it. And if you don't, then you're already in the stock. So tradable, yes. Investable, yes. Bounce coming maybe towards 63 or 64. From a trading perspective, that is available. Selling a put or a put spread would be the way I would do it, combination with buying a call or a call spread. Basically the opposite of what we did on the top. Coles, I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. At some point, the company said it's looking for alternatives, which means that they don't even want to own themselves. So I would not invest in it. This descending wedge is happening in the market that cannot stop rallying, and this one cannot stop falling. What will happen to this one if the market hiccups? Having said that, this dip is so sharp that it might produce a huge rally up to 28 or 30 just as a knee-jerk reaction on some BS headline. Oh, somebody wants to buy calls. So technically, I see the attraction. So go long with a tight stop. So how does that work? I risk an amount of money that's appropriate to me on a speculative stock because I don't have a reason to go long except that it's descending wedge. And I'll say to myself, if I lose this much money, I'm out regardless. That is a speculative bet with a tight stop. That's what I would do, tops. But it's not the kind of stock I would work with because there's just no support that is bankable. KWEB, everything I said about any Chinese company today applies here. In the previous video, I mentioned FXI and Baba and Bilibili. If you chase the rally against my advice, you lost a lot of money, and I would sell the next rally. I don't think this can break out at 35. And you have support, but it doesn't kick in until a little bit lower. And the support is at 30 through 25, and then another batch of support through 22. This is an ETF. I prefer the FXI over this one, but they trade the same way. Lockheed Martin. So we shorted it up here. I wouldn't short it down here. There are a couple of you that are short Lockheed Martin. I think you're expecting too much downside. So the only way it goes lower from a charts perspective is by headlines. Lockheed Martin, blah, 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 cheated on blah, 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 blah. Boom. It comes down to 430 or lower, which should be a strong base. Anything below 470 is a strong base, and it's wide. It's $70 wide, if not a little bit more. So the easy work has happened. This here is not an obvious point to short. You know, nope, that applies on shorting. It's not an obvious point of entry in a short position. And if somebody's taking a long, they're not crazy. But I wouldn't go all in because the rally might fizzle and you might produce a lower low. Like, why did they lose this wick? That wick should have been bulletproof. They lost it and they're toying with it again. So if it gets to 472, that's a sign of extreme weakness, and it's probably going to come down a little bit more than that, like $10 to $12. So yeah, you can make money on the short side, but it's not going to be the easy one. Lulu, you can focus on Lulu. Do what you want to do and lock it into Lulu instead. This one is vulnerable for a dip down to 345. 350, 345. It's vulnerable. I think it's easier to get to 345 than 435. That should give you all you need to know. If I'm long on an investment, yeah, I got in long. I'm not adding here. And it's not an obvious point of entry. MasterCard, excellent financials. We're spending like fools. All-time high. Markets, all-time high. I mean, I don't go long stocks that are like there. What am I doing if I am? I'm buying it up here. So why not buy the next dip? It just dipped not too long ago. 12%, 13%. You know, it does give you better entry points. This here is not a good entry point. Well, in hindsight, it might be, but it's not an obvious entry point here. Technically speaking, 531, 532, difficult. Support is scattered. 512 is decent support. If you lose it, you might probably test the 502. Mags, Roundhill, Magnificent 7. What is this? This tracks the biggest stocks. Yeah, I don't touch these. Yeah. So how is this different than the QQQ? It's not. I wouldn't touch it. Okay, so whatever I say about the Qs tonight applies here. Markets are at all-time highs. They made a lower low. By the way, the NASDAQ did make a lower low than the 20th. So we had a bad day on the 18th, the worst day of the year. We doubled down lower on the 20th. The NASDAQ made a fractional lower low, which technically puts it in a selling hand. lower lows and lower highs, two of them. High, low, lower low. So theoretically speaking, if they don't break out soon, they may have started a descending channel, and that's the message on all of them. I don't deal with these stocks. I would encourage you to steer away from these derivative ETFs. Mara, hopefully I kept you out up here. It has fallen into support and it bounced. That's proper. If it loses the support from last week, it probably goes to 13. Now, that is not what Bitcoin's body language is, which is proof that I told you up there that if you're trading Mara because of Bitcoin, you're making a mistake. And that's proof. So here's Mara compared to its high. Okay? It's not visually obvious, so I will not make the point here. But my point is solid. Is if I'm trading Bitcoin Mara because of Bitcoin, I should just trade Bitcoin. You can trade Bitcoin without a crypto account. There are tickers that are closely tied to the price of Bitcoin than Mara, who also has a business. It's a company. Good solid support from a trading perspective. Support through 14, you better not lose 14, you go to 10. That's not my forecast, but that's what happens if you lose the support. Meanwhile, 23 through 25 is probably going to be very difficult to take out. Let's put a cloud on it. All of this is resistance. And support is scattered down here. So you're kind of stuck. If you own it, there's nothing to do. Maybe selling covered calls will get you. MBLY, so I'm a little confused as to whether you guys like it or don't. I thought for sure it was an avoid, but it turns out not. So this company is... So if we talk about AI and quantum computing, so that means, you know, processing power is getting faster and better. So that just says that we're going to have some robotics come to light. And robots need eyeballs. This is one of them. It uses cameras, I believe. And that long loss of $3 billion is their write down on the hedge. They were looking at LiDAR, which is the alternative to using cameras, is to use lasers. And they decided to give up on that, I believe. That's the write down from it. So do your own homework on it. Meanwhile, the chart has a good positive trend, but it's now getting into a zone that could present some resistance. So anything above 2350 should be a lot of problems. This was a no-brainer down in the single digit. I mean, did it go single digits? Almost. Well, the low tens, the low teens and tweens. Next time it goes there, it's an investment for the long term. So if I bought it down there, I'm sitting pretty. I don't do anything with it. MELI, you can buy the dip if you want to. It's not very liquid with options, so I would caution you trying to be too cute with the options. Solid support. It hit both of our targets. You see vulnerable, played out. I said vulnerable also, but not easy, played out. So both of these played out. Heavy support, and its support zone extends through 1400. So I don't know how you traded it. If you caught the bounce, for the same reasons it bounced, it should fail on the rally. Okay, because they made a lower low and a lower high. I think they're selling rallies, and I think coming out of 1950 is near impossible in the next couple of months. I think it's going to be difficult to break out of 1950 substantially. Meta, don't short it. You either believe in it or you don't. I don't believe in it, but I don't want to short it. Great financials, but I think it's a scam. I think it's not a straightforward company. They do a lot of shady things. That's my opinion. You can form your own opinion. Meanwhile, the government lets it happen. So until it gets actually come to light, it's a long, it's not a short. Technically speaking, 620 plus should be a fail. Clear 638, you got open space. And the opposite is that even if you lose the support from last week, which was a hard bounce, you have better support. So they didn't fill the candles all the way, so they might come back down and fill them. But it's a long as it falls into the secondary support of 560 or lower. There are some open candles from before because the rally was just insane. But you can see how they're buying dips, right? At every turn. The sellers cannot maintain the sell momentum. Investment for the long term, sure. I mean, you can't argue with a P&L like that. Merck. This was a buy the dip moment. Good business. Falling with a meme. Falling into a support zone. So once it hit 94 through 84 should be bulletproof, if that helps you make decisions on investment. It might come back down to 97 one more time for you, but if they take out 101, they might get to 103. Those are trading comments. I think there are sellers above, so I wouldn't get long here for a trade. Investment maybe, yeah. Moderna, I wouldn't touch it for all the money in the world. But smart people do like it. And if you think it's going to have a future, or we're going to have another one of those, you know what happened in 2020, then this is a stock to buy and hold for the long term. It's a speculative stock. So at this price, I would take half of a position, maybe a little bit more, and leave room to add if it collapses. Hopefully the stock goes to zero, because that means we don't need any of it, right? But on the other hand, they're working on one drug for cancer. So you want them to succeed in that effort. The chart 48 is difficult, but if you get there, you might get to 53. If you lose the recent lows, you might get to 31 or 2. Yeah. What is this here? Hold trade, is it? Yeah, it's dead. Not an obvious point of entry. We bought the dip in this guy so many times, but it's not an obvious point of entry. I think we shorted it on this dip here and made us money quickly. Anyway, I wouldn't start a long position here. I mean, it's a good company, but the P&L is not awesome. I mean, it's good, but it's not awesome. The chart is too awesome. So I think it's easier to get to 101 than it is to make a new high. But I can see them making a new high, especially if the market goes higher. So if I'm riding a momentum long, that's okay. If I'm looking to invest in it for the long term, I would just take a token entry point at this point and add to it at 100 or lower if it goes there. Microsoft, like, look at Microsoft, way better company than Marvel, but look at where it's at compared to its highs. And that's after a big rally. We should take clues from Microsoft. It's behaving like the market should behave, kind of a thing. Not very exuberant. And when it rallies, it behaves well around resistance. And it's one of the best deals out there. Second largest company. Look at this P&L. You cannot, like, if you say, okay, let me give you an example of a perfect P&L. There you go. Consistent, decades worth of performance. All of it looking like this. I mean, wow. Totally forecastable. Chart behaves well. Like, why would I want to bother with all the other junk that you guys are covering here? This eliminates the, holy crap, I didn't see that coming. Of course, you don't get the 50% profits in a day, but those are gambling. You want to gamble, you go to Vegas. That's not me. So this one, solid support below 412, 415. 408. Lose 405, you probably are going to lose 400 in a substantial way in a series of lower lows and lower highs. So let's say it this way. If the market holds up, this one will do okay. If the market corrects, this one will give you an entry in the low 300s. These are words that will cringe people who believe in it to the moon. But we're not looking at it deserving to go to 330. We're looking at it going to 330 in a wave of selling in the market. This blue triangle that I drew says it goes down to here over the next few years, which means we will have an event in the market that forces it down there, not on its own. So what am I saying? Invest in it and leave room to double your position and be patient with that second double. Don't short it. Trade it actively, sell a put spread after a drop. Lock the profits on the pop. Very easy, forecastable. And look how easy it is to, how it behaves around charts. So this was an area of interest back in November and again in December. And look at how it's becoming a pivot point here. So I can literally delete this, move this one from here to here, and I can rename this, move it up here and reuse this same box. I don't even make it a different size. That is a selling zone if we get there. Very forecastable. MSTR, not forecastable. This was a short up here. It's still a short. I would be selling rallies in this one. I think this one will be below 200 this year at some point. And it could be 600, which proves my point. Like, there's a lot of gambling, and its stock price is tied closely to the most volatile asset ever, which is Bitcoin. The guy that runs it is very smart, and he's convinced people that he's never wrong. So I think they loaded up $6 or $4 billion worth of Bitcoins up at the top. So which means that he believes in his company in Bitcoin to more than quintuple in price, because their Bitcoin, the Bitcoins on their balance sheet are already priced at a premium. I would not be chasing this company. I would rather put my money in crypto. Micron, I had issues with it up here. I don't down here. So if somebody started a position for an investment, kudos. But you should know that this could be 65, 62, 60, 58 if the market falls. They have had at least a year worth of reports, so 4 quarters that are solid and consistent. Before that, they had a hiccup. Let's blame the 2020 events because of the push-pull supply and sales. Maybe now they've stabilized. Good company, positioned well in a thing that's going to be even more and more necessary to run our lives. So as an investment, totally, I'm on board. As a trade, also, buy the dip was good. Now, if you lose the support from last week, you will go down to 77. It's almost a guarantee. Meanwhile, rallies into 103 and 4 and 5 will be sold hard. I don't think it can break out of 113 unless the market makes a new high. Yeah, I think this one is easier to get to 23 than 29. Needless to say more, I don't need to say more. Okay, I do need to say more. So picture this, how they're buying dips and how they're now droopy. That's the question we're trying to answer for the market. Are they selling rips? So far, they look like it, but it's not a guarantee. But if you get to 24.5 or 24 on this one, it's almost a guarantee that they're selling rallies and they're going to get to 21 or 18. But that's what we're determining on the market. Have they started drooping? Netflix, great company. I think you'll get an entry below 800 this year. Something that looks like this. NetApp, great company. Buy the dip, yes. All in, no. Support here, super solid. Look how many times they defended it. Look how volatile this thing is with such a stable P&L. That's pretty weird. So I don't blame anybody that just went long. Don't add to it. You can probably add to it at like 103 if the markets give you that opportunity. Don't short it for that, but don't go all in. Leave some dry powder. Rallies into 125 are going to be met with heavy selling. NVIDIA, I've heard of it. What do? Look at this bull crap. This price action, total bull crap. It's going to be a 150, 151 on Monday, Tuesday. By the inauguration, we'll probably, you saw the reaction to the Trump election. When is the inauguration again? When we get the inauguration out of the way, we're going to have another bump on the 20th. Okay, we have some time then. So technically speaking, if you take out 147, you should have enough oomph to take out 153. So don't short this company. Inverse head and shoulders, the target of which is about $12, $13. Okay, so by design, this should get to 155. If you're long NVIDIA, don't get out if that's why you went long. If you're chasing it here, you should know that it's failed here and here and here and here since November. This here was the mother of all rallies. This here, banks rallied 10% in one day based on the election from Trump. I don't know what the hell that was. Maybe its own earnings. Yeah. So what's it going to take out the earnings? A lot. But if you do take out the earnings, this thing 165. I've said before, when it was falling and the market was breaking out, I said this thing should be 180, 190. Why is it not? It's the best of the best. Look at this P&L. There is no mega cap P&L that looks like this one ever. I have never seen a mega cap P&L do this in my entire life, let alone the third largest company on the planet. Yet it hasn't even come close to making a higher high when junk companies are. That's the discrepancy. So either the junk companies have to crash or this one needs to be up in the 170s, 180s, and 90s. So don't short NVIDIA. NVO. That was an entry point. I think this was based on some silly headline. But this one is also a one-trick pony, I think. So what if the government comes out and says, you can't do this anymore? What happens to their income? Based on these financials, this is a no-brainer long. But if they come out and say, oh, the new health czar says you can't have this sold for weight loss anymore, boom, that thing will come crashing down. If that doesn't happen, that's a pretty good place to start along, not all in. OKLO, I would never consider trading the stock for myself. Look at it. What are you doing? Do you know the headlines? If you do, then go for it. I'm not going to be able to help you. Study the company and find out the long-term holding opportunity. Don't use the charts. Use your conviction. The charts are on crack. Now, if this was a stable company chart, I would tell you it's going to 23 first. But I can't tell you it's not 33 by Monday morning. So good luck with that. I'm not going to be able to provide you anything that you can bank on. OKTA, crazy stock. We've traded it before on the long side almost every time. It's got a good base of buyers into 72 and 70. If you lose 70, you're probably going to go down to the low 60s. But you do have backup support. So if somebody went long on these dips, multiple dips, 1, 2, 3, 4, this was an exit. This was almost a perfect exit. Now, 98 is target 2 of that giant green M. But boy, that was a beautiful 92 area exit. I think if it goes up to 87, 86 and change, I would get out if I took it for a trade. Tops. In fact, anything above 83 is an exit for me. Short-term comments. Investment-wise, you can hold it with confidence or add to it lower. I don't know what that does. Penny stock. Buyers at 137, backup buyers at 126, sellers anywhere above 160. And video 2 over.